Legacy overhead, that's what he called me. I was halfway through updating a compliance audit sheet when the video feed crackled to life, and there he was, Matt. 30 years old if we're being generous, probably the kind of guy who used Synergy in bed and thought Excel macros were cutting-edge sorcery. The CFO introduced him as the efficiency fixer, which is corporate code for hatchet man with a smile. Tanned, tooth bleached, or styled like he Googled alpha male fade. "Hi everyone," he said, giving the kind of smirk you see on guys who still do keg stands at weddings. "I'm here to streamline operations and eliminate process redundancies." His eyes landed on me through the screen like he was scanning for which antique chair to throw out first. I didn't flinch. Just clicked save as on the folder I kept with every licensing document, federal renewal timestamp, internal compliance chain tied to my name, labeled it church pancake recipes, and backed it up to a private drive. Dana Miller wasn't going out like a rookie. By lunchtime, I heard him in the break room joking with two junior analysts about phasing out boomer infrastructure. I'm 42, not a boomer. But in Matt's world, if you don't tick-tock your workflow, you're obsolete. Then came the huddle. Open floor plan. Everyone standing around like it was an exorcism of common sense. Matt pulled up a slide deck filled with nonsense phrases like agile compliance ecosystem and decentralized accountability hubs. I watched 3 interns nod like they were witnessing the second coming of Elon Musk. Some of our team members, especially those with legacy responsibilities, will be reassessed to ensure alignment with our lean strategy, he said. Then, staring right at me, "We appreciate your historical contributions, Dana." Historical, like I was a damn sarcophagus in HR's basement. I didn't say a word, just smiled. The kind of smile you give when someone walks into a bear trap you've been camouflaging for a decade. Oh, and quick pause before we keep going. If you're listening and not subscribed, help a soul out. I'm trying to hit 10,000 subscribers so I can finally afford a chair without a missing wheel. Seriously, 95% of y'all listen without clicking the button. Just one tap and you'll make this girl real proud. All right, back to the meltdown. That night, I stayed late, not because I had to. I wanted to watch the system breathe, like a mother watching her kid sleep before CPS shows up. I double-checked my credentials across 3 federal platforms: free active certification, renewal control, licensing PIN, and audit clearance, still tied to my name. I made sure the timestamps matched. Then I printed my contract clause, the one nobody ever reads. Section 7C. In the event of involuntary termination, all company-paid licensing responsibilities and regulatory certifications shall be considered void, and all credentials will be formally rescinded within 48 hours of contract nullification. Nobody noticed when I left the building, but I noticed the way Matt's eyes lingered on me that morning, like a lion staring at a cow, not realizing the cow has access to predator drones. You ever see a man mistake a fuse for a shoelace? You will. By the next Tuesday, Matt had taped a poster above the copier that said compliance not equal to complacency. The font was Comic Sans. Then came the real fun. Everyone, yes, everyone, was told they had to re-interview for their evolved role. It was spun like a bonding exercise. Like we should be grateful for a chance to pitch ourselves for the same job titles printed on our health insurance cards. One by one, folks shuffled into conference rooms like kids headed to the principal's office. The newer hires came out smiling, parroting things like, "Matt really sees me, and he's bringing fresh air." I wanted to tell them that kind of air comes from a busted sewer grate. When it was my turn, I didn't bring a resume. I brought silence. Matt barely looked up from his laptop. "Dana, you've been here a while." 10 years, I said, cool as a cucumber in a snowstorm. "Right, institutional knowledge, we value that." His fingers tapped the keys, probably typing Fire Dinosaur, into Slack, pulled up a half-baked organizational chart, and pointed at a box labeled Regulatory Stewardship. Under it, my name crossed out, next to it, open to be reassigned. Then he clicked a tab labeled Q3 Renewal Delegation. My eyes clocked the file name, Q3 License Ruth Plan V1. In the comments, it read, "Can this be transferred downstream?" Downstream in Matt speak meant dumped onto someone too green to spell OSHA. I smiled, didn't flinch, but inside, a siren started wailing. When I got back to my desk, I opened the database I'd built from scratch in 2016. The one that tracked every compliance certificate, its expiration date, which governing body it reported to, and who had signature authority. There were 43 items on the list, 43 licenses, 43 pieces of red tape woven together into one tight, corporate noose, and all of them tied to me. Exported a fresh copy of the log, encrypted it, zipped it, renamed it Employee Birthday Cake List, and emailed it to a private account. Then I cleared the sent items. Call me paranoid, but I've seen what happens when children play with matches and call it innovation. Later that afternoon, he reassigned my inspection prep to a marketing intern who thought FDA stood for Food Design Aesthetic. No lie, she asked, if that meant redesigning the lunchroom posters. Meanwhile, I was tasked with reorganizing the janitorial supply shelf. He said it would keep me in the loop at foundational level. Foundational, like mold. I asked politely if I still had admin access to our licensing dashboard. Matt blinked like I'd just spoken Aramaic. Oh, I think we routed that to Chloe last week. You don't really need it anymore, right? Chloe had just learned what a PDF was. I didn't argue, just nodded, logged into a terminal down the hall, and revoked her access from the shadow admin panel I'd never told anyone about. If I was getting kicked off the ship, I wasn't leaving the map behind. I walked past Matt's glass-walled office later that day. He was laughing on a call, something about scrubbing out the old wood. He didn't notice me watching, but I noticed something. The fuse was shorter now, and the room smelled like smoke. The first time I heard them laughing, I let it slide. It was 3 of the junior analysts, fresh from college, still wet behind the ears and smug with borrowed confidence, hovering over a printout of my old compliance flowchart like it was a cave painting. This thing uses color codes like it's a Crayola box, one snorted. Another added, she even timestamps everything manually. Does she know automation exists? They were clustered near the break room like a pack of overconfident poodles, sipping cold brew and dropping buzzwords like agile iteration and machine learning integration, as if those phrases had ever stopped a federal audit. I walked past, head high, but my spine burned. By Wednesday, I'd been locked out of 3 internal dashboards, 2 of which I designed. No warning, no access request. Just a red 403 screen and a pop-up that said, "Contact your system administrator." Spoiler, I was the system administrator, or had been. Emailed IT, no reply. I tried calling HR. The voicemail was colder than January in Detroit. Finally got a real person after 4 attempts. They said, "Sorry, Dana. All HR requests now go through your departmental manager." That's Matt. That's Matt. Like they were announcing the second coming, but with more hair gel and less divine oversight. I didn't reply. Just hung up and stared at my monitor, empty but glowing. Been cut off from every meaningful interface in less than a week. No explanations. Just streamlining. Matt was smart in that insidious MBA way. Never enough to build something, but just smart enough to know how to dismantle it under the cover of policy updates and reorg memos. He'd started slipping little grenades into his weekly updates to leadership, legacy processes under review, potential staffing overlaps, redundant certification management identified. That last one was cute, like you could overlap a federally mandated authority signature tied to my biometric profile. I'd become a walking contradiction, officially employed but strategically erased. So I scheduled a 10-minute slot at a notary office, quiet little place above a nail salon on Monroe Avenue. No fanfare. Just me, a stiff chair, a form titled Voluntary Relinquishment of Licensing Authority. I didn't sign it yet, just notarized the option. A safety pin tucked into my coat pocket in case things turned into freefall. Afterward, I walked back to the office with a peppermint latte and the deadest smile you've ever seen. Matt passed me in the hallway and said, "Hope you're feeling more aligned this week." I nodded, just tying up loose ends. He smiled, corporate snake smile you'd find in the self-help section of a Barnes & Noble, next to Crush It, and a scented candle. What he didn't know was that every loose end I tied came with a fuse, and I had the match. It happened on a Monday, because of course it did. The kind of Monday where the air in the office feels like microwaved plastic, and everyone pretends they like their jobs just enough to survive another week. We were all gathered for Matt's new weekly momentum sync, which was basically a TED talk for sociopaths. He stood at the front of the open-floor bullpen in his tight blue blazer and did that palms-out gesture like he was calming down a herd of sheep. "Let's start with some candor," he said. "That's how you always know someone's about to gut you in public, when they lead with candor. We've been doing a lot of reflection over the last few weeks." He went on, pacing like he was about to sell us timeshares in hell. While tradition has value, stagnation is a threat. He stopped right behind my chair. I didn't turn around. And unfortunately, he said, loud and clear, certain legacy roles are no longer aligned with our forward momentum. People started shifting in their seats. Some looked at the floor. A couple glanced at me. One kid tried to smile like this was normal, like we were just watching someone lose their parking spot and not their livelihood. Then came the final. Effective immediately, Matt announced Dana Miller's position has been phased out. No warning, no meeting, no one-on-one. Just a sentence in the air like a bullet. I stood up, not because I was shaken, but because my legs felt too steady for how much they wanted to kick him through the wall. HR, two of them, both young, both avoiding eye contact, walked up holding a glossy folder like they were delivering communion. I took it, opened it, flipped to the termination page. No severance, just legalese and a line to sign. I pulled a pen from my own bag, signed it in a single stroke, then said, I'll need a printed copy. Matt blinked. It's all digital, I said, printed. HR hesitated. I stared. 4 minutes later, I walked out of that office with a paper copy, a stapled receipt, and the calm of a woman who knew exactly what she'd just done. You see, when I signed that form, Section 7C of my contract activated a silent clause across 3 federal databases. An invisible tripwire. Every active certification paid for by the company, my certifications, immediately queued for auto-revocation. Not just expired, not just suspended, nullified. At 7:13 p.m. that night, my phone pinged with a confirmation email. Your authority over licenses #CN 8835-44, #FD 2210-98, and #MDR 5081-02 has been formally relinquished. Entities dependent on these licenses will be marked non-compliant in 24 hours unless reauthorized by a certified replacement. I didn't forward it, didn't screenshot it, didn't even reply. I just sat in my apartment, sipped boxed Merlot, watched reruns of The Golden Girls, while the digital noose started tightening around Matt's precious forward momentum. And I slept like a goddamn baby. Wednesday morning started with a whimper and a very expensive box of nothing. At 9:04 a.m., procurement tried to confirm shipment of medical-grade filtration components for one of our biotech clients, stuff you don't even breathe near without 3 signatures and a biohazard stamp. The vendor's reply: cannot fulfill shipment. Receiving entity listed as inactive. License CN 8835-44 expired. Contact listed certifying officer. Guess who that was? 10 minutes later, IT started logging anomalies. Logins failed. API calls choked. A scheduled data sync to the FDA's audit portal returned a rejection code. Invalid license holder. That same hour, our internal license dashboard, once as clean and green as a freshly mowed lawn, started lighting up like a Christmas tree in hell. Red alerts. Inactive flags. Credentials marked orphaned. Matt, ever the smooth-brained diplomat, strolled into the operations pod with a to-go cup from some downtown cafe and said, we'll just update the contact info. One of the compliance analysts, poor kid named Renee, tried to explain. Sir, contact updates require certification reauthorization. Dana was the certifying officer. Legally, Matt blinked, so do it anyway. She was the only credentialed officer with reauthorization authority across all active verticals. No one else is registered with the Federal Compliance Board, and the re-registration period, it takes weeks. There was a silence, not the awkward kind, the fatal kind, like watching someone realize the iceberg isn't going to move. Matt rubbed his temples and muttered, why the hell didn't anyone tell me this earlier? Renee, barely old enough to rent a car, replied. Dana was the one who told people that. Meanwhile, I was at home, in sweatpants, eating knockoff Cheerios and reading the whole thread from an anonymous email chain a former colleague had quietly blind copied me into. Someone even included a screenshot of Matt's Slack message to legal. Anyone know how to override a license expiry tag in the dashboard thingy? Called it a thingy. That dashboard had been my baby for 5 years. I designed it to lock down tighter than Fort Knox if certain revocation events fired. It wasn't just bureaucratic, it was surgical. If someone without the proper credentials tried to access a certification, it blacklisted their IP and auto-reported the intrusion to internal audit logs, which IT also discovered that afternoon, because Matt had tried to brute force his way in. By lunchtime, HR was getting panicked pings from upper management. Can we get Dana back? Does her NDA prevent communication? Who signed off on this? Nobody answered, because the only person who could have was too busy figuring out if she wanted soup or wings for lunch. Spoiler, I went with both. That evening, I opened LinkedIn and checked the old company page. Still proudly boasted federally certified across all operations. I almost felt bad. Almost. Instead, I smiled, because I knew by Thursday that lie was going to cost them more than just pride. The seeds were sprouting, and the vines were tightening. Friday morning came with sirens no one could hear, just the soft ping of a calendar alert and the thud of panic dropping into Matt's soy latte-filled gut. FDA randomized site inspection 10 o'clock a.m. It was legit. Random, yes, but randomized within a window Dana had always planned for, quietly, annually. Color-coded spreadsheet, cross-referenced against vendor contract terms, renewal cycles, and the phases of the damn moon if needed. The auditors didn't play. They walked in with clipboards and the moral authority of IRS agents in Kevlar. By 9:22, the front desk called compliance. 3 inspectors here. They're asking for the license holder. Silence. Long, panicked silence, because there wasn't one. Matt, now visibly sweating through his navy banana Republic blazer, sprinted to the ops wing and barked at legal. Can we get Dana's credentials reinstated? A poor junior associate Googled license reinstatement process like it was a how-to guide for baking banana bread. Meanwhile, Matt tried logging into the Federal Credentialing Board's portal using Dana's old login. Access denied. He tried requesting a password reset. User not found. He called the regulatory board's help desk, transferred him 3 times, then calmly told him, Dana Miller voluntarily relinquished her license authority. Her ID has been removed from the registry. Reinstatement requires full recertification. Average timeline, 4-6 weeks. Matt stared at the speakerphone like it had just slapped his mother. He turned to HR. What clause did she use to revoke her credentials? They flipped through her termination file, confused. We just processed the standard exit paperwork. I don't know anything about credentials. Someone from audit chimed in, wait, didn't she have her own clause in her employment contract? That's when the room collectively remembered Dana Miller wasn't some dusty compliance grandma, she was the linchpin. And they'd yanked her out like a wisdom tooth hooked into the spine. Meanwhile, across town, Dana's phone buzzed. It was Liz from documentation. A decent person, once, kind who baked cookies for audit week and used to sneak post-it doodles onto Dana's monitor back when the world made sense. Liz's voice cracked. Did you do this? Dana stirred her coffee, looked out the window at nothing, then smiled. No, she said calmly. You did. Click. She didn't hang up hard, didn't yell. That would have been giving them too much credit, because this wasn't revenge. This was math. 1 + 1 = you fired the wrong damn person. Auditors were now sitting in the lobby. The company legally couldn't allow them into the secured wings without a licensed compliance officer present, which meant the audit couldn't proceed, which meant every single vendor and client relying on certified compliance for active projects would be in technical breach of contract in approximately 4 hours. And Dana, she was getting her nails done. Midnight burgundy, gel finish. Not because she needed to, because power doesn't need to raise its voice. It just has to walk away. Monday, 8:37 a.m. The building smelled like stale coffee, dried sweat, and the quiet shame of a company that just realized it stepped on its own oxygen hose. That's when he walked in, Gregory T. Winslow, CEO, cruise tan glowing like an overcooked rotisserie chicken, silk shirt, still creased from whatever Monaco resort he'd just floated back from. The man reeked of wealth, sunscreen, and complete oblivion. He strolled through the glass atrium like a Roman emperor returning from battle, waving at receptionists, throwing finger guns at junior VPs. Morning, folks. Hope y'all didn't burn the place down while I was gone. Nobody laughed. By the time he hit the executive floor, he had 3 unread urgent license compliance emails and a voicemail from legal that ended with the words noncompliance disaster. At 9:02 a.m., he burst into the ops room expecting some mild turbulence. Instead, he walked into a goddamn plane crash. Operations, frozen. Vendor shipments, halted. Inspections, failed. Certifications, invalid. Clients, livid. Revenue dashboard, flatline. He turned to the room of red-eyed managers, jaw tightening. Who's handling this? All heads turned toward Matt, now looked less like a visionary and more like a middle schooler who just flooded the gymnasium with glitter glue. Gregory pulled up Dana's termination paperwork on a wall-mounted monitor. Read it in silence. Then scrolled some more. Finally, he said it quietly at first, like he couldn't believe the syllables as they came out. You fired the license holder? Matt opened his mouth, closed it. Gregory's voice didn't rise. It dropped. Fired the person with sole federal licensing authority across all departments. Matt stammered. Her responsibilities were deemed redundant. Gregory laughed, but not like a joke laugh, more like a "I just found out my kid sold our car for crypto" laugh. He pointed at the screen. Her name is on every regulatory document, every active license, every renewal path, every legal compliance chain this company depends on to exist. Flipped open a manila folder legal had rushed in with. Here's our top 5 suspended vendors. All contracts frozen due to expired certs. And here, he tossed a paper onto the table like a blackjack dealer, Dana Miller, listed on every single one. Gregory spun back to the room. And you let a kid who still writes in buzzword soup fire her? Matt tried one last Hail Mary. I thought we could reassign it. IT said we could just update contact info. It's a federal license, not a damn email alias. Gregory thundered. Silence. Then he grabbed his phone, looked up Dana's contact. Nothing. HR piped up. We tried reaching her. She's unresponsive. Gregory sighed, sat down, rubbed his temples like the sunburn had crawled behind his eyes. Then, get her back, Matt coughed. She might not want to come back. Gregory looked at him like he was a bug crawling across a Brioni loafer. Oh, she'll come back, he said. We'll pay. Ravel, name a wing after her if we have to. But deep down, even he knew. The woman they tossed like moldy leftovers now held the keys to their entire damn kingdom, and she wasn't standing at the gate anymore. She'd built another castle, and inside every blueprint they were scrambling to recover, her name was still printed in permanent ink. Justice didn't scream. It just watched the guilty bleed out on their own spreadsheets. By noon, Ina's inbox had 6 messages flagged high priority from at Winslow Enterprises Com, and 1 voicemail from an assistant named Trevor, who sounded like he hadn't slept since Thursday and might be on the verge of selling a kidney for leverage. The subject line on the final email: urgent, return requested by CEO directive. Dana didn't open it right away. She finished her late breakfast, 2 eggs over medium, sourdough toast. The smug silence of a woman whose enemies were now taking meetings under fluorescent lights, while she basked in the soft hum of a home espresso machine. Across the city, Gregory Winslow was pacing his executive suite like a lion forced into customer service. Matt. Oh, Matt was now Associate Project Liaison Level 2, which is corporate for sit down, shut up, and don't touch anything that requires a password. His standing desk was replaced with a creaky hand-me-down, his monitor downgraded to a 19-inch square. The only thing agile about Matt now was the speed with which he got thrown under the bus. Gregory had legal draft up a proposal to Dana within hours. Consulting role effective immediately. Term contract, 6 months minimum. Reduced salary, but generous bonuses promised based on results. And of course, a full gag order. No social media, no interviews, no comments to regulators. Total silence. The offer came wrapped in digital gold ribbon and a groveling note. Dana, we recognize the critical nature of your previous contributions. Please consider this opportunity to help us restore operational integrity. We are prepared to be flexible. Let's rebuild together. Greg Dana reread it twice. No mention of an apology. No ownership of what happened. Just veiled desperation dressed in HR drag. She composed a reply. Subject, return requested by CEO Directive Gregory. I appreciate the offer. Truly. Unfortunately, I don't return to burned buildings, especially the ones where I was thrown into the fire for streamlining. As requested, please find attached a highlighted copy of my signed termination clause, Section 7C. Formal confirmation of license revocation from the National Registry Board. Screenshot of your company's certification dashboard, taken 72 hours post-termination. You'll notice my name. Still listed, grayed out, irreplaceable, wishing you compliance and clarity. Dana Miller. No flair, no threats, no negotiations, just receipts. She clicked send and exhaled, not like a woman mourning a lost job, but like someone closing a door they built, installed, and locked from the outside. Gregory read the email in silence, didn't forward it, didn't reply. He just leaned back in his chair, eyes locked on that grayed-out dashboard screenshot, And for the first time since stepping off his yacht, he understood. They hadn't just fired an employee. They'd excommunicated the one person who understood the religion. And Dana, she wasn't praying anymore. 3 weeks later, LinkedIn damn near imploded. There she was, Dana Miller. Hair a touch lighter. Smile a little sharper. Dressed in business black like a woman who came to collect. New position, Director of Compliance Stratix BioCore. The post was short. No hashtags, no humble brags. Just, grateful to join a team where integrity isn't an afterthought. Below it, 2 lines of polite hellfire. Stratix BioCore secures Omega Med and Vierx contracts, citing continuous compliance confidence as deciding factor. Those were the crown jewels. 2 biggest clients her old company had flaunted in every earnings call. The ones that now packed up shop and walked after hearing their certification backlog hit unknown reactivation window. Internally, Stratix didn't have to sell hard. Dana came with the licensing blueprint in her brain and an industry reputation that couldn't be photoshopped. The very fact that her name had once secured multi-million-dollar vendor relationships was enough to tip the scales. Meanwhile, back at her old stomping ground, still stuck. The dashboard never turned green. License appeals choked in bureaucracy. Legal fines were rolling in daily, some automated, some hand-delivered like hate mail from the gods. Vendors dropped out. Clients panicked. The office holiday party got canceled due to budgetary adjustments. And Matt, he didn't even get a goodbye cake. Just a 3-minute Zoom call and a quiet transition plan that read more like an obituary. 1 week, he was barking orders in an open floor plan. The next, he was updating his resume with vague nonsense like freelance strategist. As for Dana, she had her own corner office now, glass walls, espresso machine, a chair that didn't squeak when she breathed. Every morning she watched the alert pings from her industry feeds, like someone watching the weather report for storms she'd already outflown. One ping, then another. Her old company flagged noncompliant, license status pending, audit failures under appeal. She took a sip of her coffee, Colombian, black, with a pinch of smug. She leaned back, calm and centered. Above her desk, pinned to her monitor with a blue pushpin, was a single yellow sticky note. No signature, no emoji. Just 5 words written in steady, no bullshit block letters. In case they ever forget, I was the license. Thanks for joining the fun, you office survivors. Subscribe for more switch-flicking drama. Let's make your former coworkers sweat.